everything set up here. I'm almost ready to start. Okay, so the second half of class, it's work time. You can just jump straight into it if you feel comfortable, or you can stick around and watch me make two different kind of approaches to these color studies. So the first painting I'm going to be working from is example 6. On week 3, that's a John Singer Sargent painting. And I'm going to approach that by kind of simplifying it down to the basic values first, and then the color temperatures that come off of those values. And I'll start with that one. And then I will do another one. So, yeah, if you're watching, I might be echoing if the volume's on the YouTube and the on the thing, but yeah, just mute one of them, I guess. Is everything look okay on the YouTube live? Okay. I posted it to the Padlet. It should be, I just titled it the date under the live stream thing. And then you can jump straight over to that. So I think I'm ready. Oh, except I have to pull up this reference image. Okay, so first I'll just draw this out. Loosely. They're still kind of study size, bigger than a thumbnail. So those are the basic shapes. That's going to be all I need for this part. And I'll just kind of let that sit, and I'll do a little bit of palette work here. So really squint down on your reference image and try to distill it down to 3 or 4 values. So when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing 1, 2, yeah, I'm seeing 4 values. There is pretty much light. It's not totally white. I'm thinking about the spot, the dress. So this particular approach is really, it's kind of, what is the word? I can't come up with it. It's very analytical. So I'm looking at values first, and then I'm going to mix the colors, the temperatures within those value groupings off of that. So it's a lot of pre-mixtures, but the first lens, the first kind of thing I'm looking and analyzing my reference is based on values. So I have light. I also have very much black. I mean, I think it's just going to be black. I don't think I need to mess with that for the dark spots. And then the two in between values are really the kind of lighter gray against the back wall here, and then the darker gray of the cast shadow. And everything will fall pretty much into one of those two. So I'll just mix this over here and then I can move it. So let's see how that does for my dark gray. I think it's going to be a little darker. Okay, again, if there's any hiccups with the streaming or questions or anything like that, please stop me and we can address it. We can talk about questions or try to fix issues. Okay, that feels a little too dark now. Now again, with these pre-mixtures, you're still just trying to get in the ballpark, so you don't have to get it exact. But you want to take your time and try to get it right. The reality of it is you're not going to know if it's right or not until you get it on the canvas. But that feels pretty good. Okay, and then we'll mix the light gray. Yeah, that feels good. That feels pretty good. I think I need to lighten my lightest value just a little bit. I think it went a little bit too dark. I really want that. You know, if I think about the white of that dress and the light popping off compared to the next lightest value, that's quite a bit brighter. So those are the three values. Now, let's look at this value, that shape, that dress, right? Now, I'm seeing that being warmer than this. So this ends up becoming like a visual reference for me. I want to stay in that range, and maybe I can grab some of it. I don't want to ever grab all of it so that I don't have that to kind of reference anymore. Because as we start grabbing our colors, those are affecting the value too. So it's not just like I can grab this gray and mix in the color I need, because it's still shifting the value. So I think I'm okay with that for now. I think it'll need a little fine tuning as I'm working on it, but the like check really is that these two are the same value, even though there's a temperature shift. And I think more or less they are. Okay, so on to the next one. Now really I'm seeing two temperatures here. I'm seeing this gray is kind of representing the wall back here. And that's pretty cool. And then I'm also seeing it kind of represent the light dresses off here to the side of those couple figures. And even potentially the floorboards here. So there's a few temperature things going on there. So we'll try to grab them one by one. The wall is really cool, but I feel like it's almost a slightly cool purple, and it really depends because there's this big gradient right from the kind of lightest part of the back wall over here to the darkest part. So you got to do a little simplifying of that information. I'm going to choose, I just see just a little bit of kind of cool red. So I'm grabbing my CAD red light and I'm mixing it into this pure black and white mixture to try to get kind of this purple. In the end, it's warmer than that, but it's still kind of a relatively cool. So I'm okay with that. Similar value, that's warmer than our pure gray mixture here. And I want to do this again. I think I grabbed too much black. Yes. Now those couple characters, the couple figures over here, I'm just seeing a little bit more, it's kind of bending more towards yellow. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's got a little bit of everything in it, but it's definitely a different temperature than the wall. I just see it being this kind of warmer yellowish treatment. Yeah, maybe in there. So trying to stick with those, still staying in that value, so you can kind of see how I'm laying this out, light to dark. And then I don't necessarily have like a yellow to red or any sort of logic to the left to right, other than these are just different kind of spots of, different temperatures. I'm actually gonna ignore the light of the baseboard, of the kind of floorboards here. I think truly that value is kind of somewhere in between these. So as I'm starting to paint and as I start to kind of open up this palette to become more of an open palette, I can try to speak for that a little bit. If there's anything, there's just that edge of our shadow on the floorboard is really, really chromatic. And I think that can be in this middle value range, but it'll be nice to kind of push out of these more neutralized temperatures into a little bit more chromatic one, just to have context of everything. Running out of paint. This is when that value training really kicks in. Once your colors get more and more chromatic, it becomes really tricky to start to see the appropriate value of those. But yeah, I'm thinking probably about there. And now that I'm kind of mixing that, I'm seeing that in the figures too. There's a couple spots that we can use that again. So now our darker gray, which is really just going to be for this cast shadow, or that's what I'm going to aim for as far as color temperature goes. With this amount of kind of pre-planning, premeditation on the, and kind of analyzing and picking apart this painting, what's going to end up happening is I'm probably not going to open this palette up too much. I think the first pass is going to be me taking these colors and putting them in those designated spaces and then seeing if there needs to be a shift. So this particular study could feel a lot more of this kind of shape language and not much kind of, yeah, not just more kind of cut out feeling. So I have a lot of this gray, so I actually am going to just grab that. And just like pretty much any of these mixtures, it's a little bit of everything, a little bit of all the pigments on this Zorn palette. In this case, I think I grabbed too much yellow and not enough red, so I have to kind of try to correct from that. Trying to overpower the yellow with the red. And then try to kind of neutralize it back. I might try another approach. I'm not totally happy with that mixture. I'm gonna grab some black, I'm gonna grab some white, I'm gonna grab a tiny bit of yellow and a tiny bit of red and a tiny bit of yellow. Chromatically speaking, this event here that on the floorboards is way more chromatic than the shadow that I'm trying to get, this shadow here. And right now these are kind of relatively similar in chroma. So I grabbed way too much of our colors. There is temperature in there, but it's subtle, and almost always it's a subtle piece of color temperature. Yeah, maybe right in there. Okay, so now we got that. And our dark, I mean, I think it's just gonna be black. Yeah, now all of a sudden though, I am seeing a second. See, this is what happens. It's kind of nice to analyze your pieces like this. Now this is a much slower process, I'd say. But my eyes are starting to tune to this painting more. So I'm seeing right on the other side of that chromatic transition from light to shadow, I'm seeing this cooler dark gray that I think we can still use this value range for. And I mean, it's like, it's very cool. I'm seeing it like reads just slightly like a cool green to me. So I am going to see about grabbing just the tiniest bit of yellow. Though I know with the Zorn palette that yellow is going to warm it up and potentially warm it up more than we need. Like the coolness of it is important. All right, so we can try that. My values that I assigned at first glance, and then the kind of temperatures of those values. So now I'm gonna grab my brush and I'm gonna start to lay things in. I will still be laying things in dark to light. And as usual, I like to give myself a little bit of space from black just in case, just so I can go darker if I need to. Proportions are not as important for this right now. I'm gonna be able to carve this shape and edit this shape a little bit as I get more down, but for now. All right, so there's my darkest kind of mass here. Now I'll go to the next one, which is already sorted out for me. Now this would be the time that you can open up the palette. You know, usually quite often when you do some pre-mixing on your palette and you put it down on the canvas, and once it's on the canvas and it's next to the other colors on the canvas, you can very quickly see any sort of changes you have to make. I'm feeling okay about that right now. I don't think I have quite enough down. I am kind of looking for anywhere else that might have that. Maybe just the beginnings of these dresses. And that'll be that. I'm gonna grab. So remember, this was not right, so I don't really need to grab that at all. And then this thing that I wanted, and this is what I'm opening up the values to, is just, it was too light for what I was seeing here. But this, if I do go a little bit lighter with this, there's a couple interesting cast shadows of those figures there, and I'll just have that color note for that. And then same over here. Now, I feel like there's an art form of its own to just trying not to get too detailed with these studies. But just, you just build it up over time. Right now, I'm really trying to make these big moves. It's kind of nice if you fall into details too quickly. It is nice to set up this way because you really can just grab these pieces of color and put them on. It kind of helps keep you from getting too detailed. All right, so here we are in the next stop in value. There's this kind of chromatic event that's happening here. I am trying to be clean with these paint tiles, as in I'm depositing the paint on the canvas and I'm trying to leave it alone. I'm hoping to not mix very much with what else is on the canvas. I want clean pieces of paint. Okay, now that I'm jumping to a much less chromatic spot within that same value, I'm gonna come over. I could either grab a new brush. I'm just gonna come over to my jar here and try to get all that off so that I can be truthful to this as best as possible. And now let me try to think of what I was mixing here. So that's the background. This is these people. Even into the arms, which is kind of cool. So in the end, we're just looking at shapes, right? I don't need any of these people to read like people. This is a color study. It's about studying the color and not the forms. Okay, now I'm going to that warmer version. And I'm gonna try to speed through this. So I'm gonna try not to get more detailed and just kind of look at the shape language I have left on my canvas, as in this is gonna be this, and then this piece is gonna be that. Now what to do about the arms. I think those arms are just going to fall into the same value as the dress. Even the upper arm that's not getting this more direct light is lighter than the value I'm painting now. So it falls more into this group than anywhere else. Do a little bit of shape editing here. In this case, that area got cooler. So I'm gonna just take advantage of that pure gray mixture I have in that same value range. I'm seeing that it's fighting the surface, which is telling me that there's not enough flow I grabbed a little bit more medium, and then that mixture is going to flow off my brush more. I want it to just sit right on top of what was there before. Okay, I'm going to switch brushes now to my last kind of clean brush. I'm going to grab that lightest color. And just really remember to keep things simple. That whole shape is going to flow straight into the floorboards. All right. Now, because I have that space, just like I was doing with the black, how I was kind of stepping back from pure black, I was getting a little bit lighter, so I had space to kind of punch my darks if I really needed to. I did the same with the lights, so now we can, on top of those big pieces of, I mean, if I can place it on top of this pretty wet layer here, I'll just try to deposit a few little highlight notes. Oh, hello, I totally missed the giant bright red spot over here. So let's look at that value-wise. I think it's gonna be close to either this or this. I'm just gonna come straight in with my brush for this. I'll do a darker brush. So I'm gonna just see if I'm anywhere close with whatever I've just mixed here, which is just grabbing Cad Red and mixing it in with whatever's on my brush. That's pretty close. It's not chromatic enough, but value-wise, I think that's okay. So if I can increase the chroma without shifting the value too much, I mean, it looks like we can just see about using pretty much Cad Red. Though when I'm looking at the painting, it's not. There's spots that are grayed back for sure. It seems a little cooler. Okay, then I'm going to stand back and squint and kind of look at everything there, and that feels pretty good. I think, that might be where I leave it. I think that is a pretty safe place to leave it, without starting to go for the transition of a study into a small painting, which we don't want to do. But maybe I could do, this might be one last little layer we can place. how there's just a little, I guess, kind of just calling attention to that gradient. Yeah, okay. So I'm curious, does that make sense? Does that seem appealing, that approach to anyone? I think that's a really great way of doing it if you're feeling lost and getting started. For sure, it's nice to approach it that way. But yeah, I'll just pause for a sec if there's any thoughts or comments. And then I'll jump over to the next one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've narrowed down the search within kind of doing all those premixes that typically it's never exactly what you mix, but you're usually pretty close. And you know you're at least really close value wise, and then you do some shifts. But yeah, exactly. It can be in between piles typically. Yeah, okay, so I will kind of jump over to this next one then. This is going to be example 3 on week 3 listing here. This is that Sargent painting of, the whole painting is relatively cool, meaning even the like, that blazer that that guy's wearing is kind of reads like a cool green. And then he's on this blue chair that we cannot get chromatically with the Zorn palette. So that'll be the next one that I try to tackle, and we'll try to do this by keying to that chroma that we can't get. So that cool blue, I'll mix as close as we can get to that, which is just black and white. And then we're going to try to adjust everything in relation to that so that that cool blue still reads cool. But first I will do a palette reset, and I will probably wash my brushes or do just a quick brush rinse as well. Yeah, like looking at this painting, even that bright red kind of pin on the blazer, that's a really cool red. This whole painting feels like it was painted in cool light, maybe. I mean, probably daylight, but it looks even cooler. So this one might not work out too well, since the entire painting is keyed cool, and cool colors are the weak point of the Zorn palette. But it'll still be fun to see what we can do. All right, first things first, I will do a little drawing here. All right, that's good enough to get started here. So I'm going to do a similar start. I want to do values. Just to kind of start to analyze this thing. But I think I'll do a little bit less of an intense, it won't be quite as in-depth of palette work as that last one. But I do want to get a sense of the value range here. So the lights there's a couple light spots that are really pretty light, relatively speaking, but I think even still, they're kind of dark. I mean, there's some lighter lights on the little sleeves of his shirt, but I think the overall kind of light might be in that area. Then there's this jacket, which is the middle value, and then there's everything else, which is the dark value. So let's do the dark value next. The dark value is not black. Ooh, that's gonna be a weird painting. I think it's a little bit lighter than that. Yeah, it's probably in there. Which, because this is just black and white, that is also gonna function as the coolest note we have, which is crazy. But yeah, let's mix that middle gray now. I feel like I can already foresee me telling you all not to do this one. I think this palette might not do so well. Yeah, that could work. I mean, more or less, it's close enough for now. Yeah, so let's get straight into this one. I really hope I clean these brushes enough. I need some very much pure black and white for this. I think it could go a little bit lighter, which is great because that'll just make it a little bit cooler. Okay, so wildly, that is this is where I'm kind of, everything else needs to kind of relate to this temperature wise. So with this being our blue, now I'm saying this is blue. So what steps do we take to get here? So we're obviously going lighter in value, and it's warmer, but it's also clearly kind of more towards green than it is towards the red. So I think that's pretty close. But now I'm really looking at that temperature from here to here, this temperature versus this temperature, and just trying to see if it's enough, if it's warmer enough. Because I really want this to feel cold. So that means, I mean, not usually, the amount of warmth you need to jump from here to here is a pretty big jump temperature wise. So we're off to a weird start of already not really matching what we're visually seeing up here, but creating this new kind of world where this relates to this, just as in our reference, that relates to that. I'm trying to avoid details right now and just paint this big shape of the blazer in. There's shadows in this blazer. There's a lot going on in this, but I'm really trying to kind of primarily make sure that I get these big picture kind of temperatures in place. I'm gonna jump brushes here So I've kind of moved from here to here, and now I can start to assess the background, which is more in that same values that I had at the bottom there, but warmer. So I'll try to get that value back, and then I will mix in a little bit of this. And again, with that chroma piece here being what's most important, I'm going to judge, you know, I'm putting the notes right next to it, so I have this side-by-side visual kind of check. I'm going to go a little bit warmer. I also need to go a little bit lighter. My goal for this, the mission, is to make this read as blue as possible while staying in the correct temperature relationships. So I think it might be kind of pushing my luck there, going that warm. I think it, you know, this to this is still, yeah, still not quite compatible yet. The background still feels cool. So that's kind of the wall that I'm hitting here with this, is I want that background to be warmer so that that couch or that chair can really feel cold. However, that background is pretty much the second coolest thing there. So I have to kind of reset that. Dark spots, we'll do the dark in the hair too. So you notice this time around I wasn't keying in from dark to light as much as I was really focusing on that piece of chroma, the thing that was out of reach, and just trying to kind of set the scene around that. in the face. Relatively, it's still, everything is still pretty cold. Oof. So I need to back off of this quite a bit. The hands are even cooler. I'm pretty much just going in for white paint now for the to get the sleeves as light but more to get them as cool as they need to be. I have this mixture here, but I'm gonna add a little bit of white to it. Yeah, this one is, and this paintbrush is pretty, it just has some warm pigment in it, so it, when you really need the cool, that cool temperature, you either have to overpower it by loading your brush crazy and just having the mixture kind of sitting on the very top of the brush, or you need to kind of reset. This one's not easy, and it's not super satisfying, right? It's kind of nice to do those with the ones you can't actually get, because you're really pushing, and you're able to kind of go through the problem solving steps to kind of an extreme degree to try to kind of get there. I am not able to get there. But studies are really kind of artifacts of us exploring these concepts. They don't need to be successful as long as you're kind of learning from them. For instance, I think the big takeaway that I'm learning from this piece, aside from just really doing some mental push-ups with color temperature relationships and where we can draw the line, where we should draw the line, is I'm looking at this and I'm looking at my study, and chromatically my piece is relating to my reference image, as in there's kind of a very narrow range of chroma that's happening in the painting. It's all relatively grayed out except for this spot that I can't get. So there's this kind of uniform, in my piece, there's this uniform kind of chroma aspect to it that I'm kind of checking my reference to see if that's the case there. That's something that I wasn't expecting to kind of learn from this, is like there's a narrow chroma range here. Now in the reference, it's still a narrow chroma range, but it's higher chroma. Everything is kind of pushed up a little bit. Yeah, I'm doing this I'm flicking my eyes back and forth. Now my reference screen is pretty far away from my canvas. But, if I had my reference right here, I would be kind of shooting my eyes back and forth like that. And as I'm doing my version of this at a great distance, I am seeing an appropriate kind of temperature relationship from here to here to here that I'm seeing up there. But like I said, everything in my reference is more chromatic. So that to me means I'm on the right track here. I think the face is still a little too warm. Maybe we can pull off of that a little bit. But I think more or less that's where I'm going to leave that. I don't want to take it too much further than that. Or I don't want to get it too developed. I'm at risk of pushing it a little too far, I think. Yeah, so any thoughts here? I think we're gonna get be about done. So I'm gonna end this stream on the YouTube side of things now.